Basketball season is practically here, just a few days away from the first game of the season when Duke will take on Texas. And coming up this weekend, a really big football game. Blue Devils off a bye week, traveling to take on the Clemson Tigers.
Hi, everybody. Dick Vitale. Hey, make sure you listen, man. The Locked On Blue Devils with J.J. Jackson. He's awesome, baby.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is J.J. Jackson. It's so great to have you here with us today on Friday, October 31st, 2025. Happy Halloween to everybody out there. As Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop where we discuss everything going on inside the life of Duke athletics. And on today's show, a big focus on basketball with the season right around the corner. And at the end of the program, we'll talk a little football with Duke going into a big showdown with the Clemson Tigers this weekend there in Death Valley. Our pal Anna Snyder from the Fayetteville Observer, part of the USA Today Network, will join us on the show today. So excited to get her back and hear her insight on everything going on with Duke basketball this season. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free, wherever it is that you get your podcast. Leave us a 5-star rating and written review, particularly there on the Apple Podcast platform. Algorithms love it when you leave those written reviews, and I appreciate it as well. Also, make sure that you watch our show each and every day on YouTube. Like this video, share it with your friends. Continue to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Special shout out to all the everydayers we have out there as we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So without further ado, let's bring her on into today's show. My pal Anna Snyder is here with us once again to talk all things Duke. It's kind of crazy. The weather is changing. The temperatures are dropping a little bit, and that can only mean one thing. We must be really close to basketball season being here. I hope you're doing well, Anna.
Yes, I am. Thank you for having me. Happy to be
here. Absolutely. So we got to talk about the Duke team. We've seen them in action a couple of times already. Exhibition wins over UCF and Tennessee, and really dominant performances so far for Cameron Boozer. No surprise, we got to start where everybody starts. It's with number 12 for the Blue Devils. The performances he's put on so far have been insane.
No, they have. I mean, watching him against UCF, he puts up, 33 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, and you're like, okay, that's awesome. And then he does even better against Tennessee. It's just crazy. He's really, really impressed.
It's insane, the skill that he's got for this Duke basketball team and showing it off at so many levels. He's got the three-point shot where he went 4 of 7 against UCF, knocked down a couple there against Tennessee. The rebound, he's really an all-around player, and I think that's been kind of the most important and impressive thing about his game.
Yeah, and I would say another thing that's really impressed me too, off the court, but even when Coach Scheyer speaks after the games, he'll talk about Cam and he'll be like, that he has part of his game he wants to improve on. And he's talked about that, both times, even with the performances that he's had, he's still like, well, I want to be better here. I think against UCF, he said off-ball rebounding, and then Tennessee, it was driving to the basket, I want to say. So
right.
Really impressive to have that mindset for a freshman.
Yeah. After you're making these great performances and still want to be better, want to improve and find the next level of your game that you could do. It should be more difficult to adjust to the college game, and he's certainly making it look like there's going to be no adjustment period whatsoever. All of the hype around him, living up to it. Not only are you, the son of Carlos Boozer, a former player at Duke in his own right, you're playing for Duke, one of the most prestigious programs. Everyone wants to make their Cooper Flag comparisons right away. Mm-hmm. It seems like it would be really difficult to live up to all of the hype and expectations. And yet, I guess we just look at all the winning he's done in his life, and it shouldn't be that big a surprise that he's playing so well.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, the numbers and the stats will back themselves up. He's won at every single level. So he's definitely brought that with him to Duke, 100%.
No doubt. Really impressed with what we've seen so far out of Cam Boozer. I think every team in America is now going to add him to the top of the scouting report. That was already going to be the case when they get set to take on Duke. So now they get set for this big game coming up against Texas, and we'll get to that here in just a moment. I though want to talk about the other guys and the exhibition performances that we've seen so far. Really big story going into the first one where Duke was without Malik Brown and Dame Sarr. Dame Sarr is someone that everyone was excited to see debut and play for Duke. Finally got to see him play against Tennessee. What have you thought of his performance?
Yeah, obviously, I think it was really important for Dame to get some minutes against Tennessee, kind of get a taste of college basketball before They play Texas and everything. I know he got into some foul trouble, played 17 minutes, but he really showed what they've talked about with Dame, his defensive ability, his length, that he really showed that, came up with a steal. He scored 5 points, but yeah, it was definitely very important for him to get out there, and he had a good first showing. I think his first basket went off like the side of the backboard.
Not the best.
Definitely some nerves there. But he definitely showed, that defensive ability that they've talked about with him. So that for sure.
Yeah, it's always something to kind of see the practice clips and then actually see them in uniform to see what they're going to look like for the team. And my goodness, it looks like his arms never end. The wingspan is so
yeah.
It's going to translate to him being a great defender.
Exactly. And yeah, the one steal he came up with too, you really saw him dive for the ball and get down there. And you really like to see that, especially in exhibition play.
Yeah, and a freshman making plays like that, the whole team kind of rallies around him and wants to do those things. Other impressive performers so far. We got to keep talking about these freshmen because what Duke has seen already out of Nick Khamenia, really impressive. Because a lot of people thought maybe it's going to be Dame Sarr that starts. Nick Khamenia gets the nod with Sarr coming back from injury and that sort of thing. And man, it seems like he's one of the most energetic and just always ferocious defenders out there for this team, a great hustle player for Duke.
No, he definitely is. Yeah, and in his debut against UCF, he finished as the second leading scorer with 14 points, and he drew the most fouls too. He got to the line a lot, which was something that was important. So yeah, definitely a good show in there from him. You can tell he brings a lot of energy, a lot of good energy, and you can tell that when you watch him for sure.
Well, we talk about the freshmen, and we talked about the fact that Cam Boozer are looking for more ways to improve. I thought it was noteworthy that you're there at the UCF exhibition. Nick Khamenia not too satisfied with his shooting percentage, although in other areas played really well. And once the game's over, once everybody has left the building, he's back out there.
Yeah. Sorry to cut you off, but no, you're right. And I'm sure that's just kind of the mindset on all the guys on the team. And that's very important to have. And that's something that as a Duke fan, you definitely like to see. 100%.
Without a doubt. I mean, this is going to be a really fun guy to watch. Really excited to see kind of how the guard play continues to develop for Duke, a game or two now into exhibition plays. They get set for the season. Got to figure out a way to balance this dynamic between Caleb Foster and Cayden Boozer. What have you thought of that pairing?
Yeah, you definitely have. I thought obviously Cayden, it's his first, time college ball, is going to make some mistakes, but I thought he looked good out there. I think Caleb Foster has looked good. Obviously, there's a lot surrounding Caleb Foster, people looking to see, his game take a jump, but Cayden, I want to say Cayden led the team in assists against UCF. So I think Caleb played a little more minutes-wise against Tennessee, but it definitely will be interesting to kind of see that dynamic as the season goes.
Yeah, it just kind of swings back and forth. Of the two, I think Cayden Boozer, people would say, had the better game against UCF, and then Caleb had the better game against Tennessee. Might kind of be back and forth. I think it's a good thing to have so many different options, and I know Coach Scheyer's talked about that a lot, right?
Yeah, 100%. And say a guy's maybe not on one night, it is good to have that other guy that could be on and, take his place. So it's definitely very important. This Duke team definitely has a lot of depth, which is something they're 100% going to be able to use to their advantage.
No doubt about that. And here we go. We're, far into this conversation. Haven't brought up Showtime Slim yet. And we probably should with the way he shoots the basketball and how he's been performing as a freshman. I think we're going to see a lot of three-point attempts once again this season from Isaiah Evans, but started off the second half with a major dunk at the rim that really started the rally for Duke there. And I'm just excited to see what the second season of Isaiah Evans looks like.
100%. Yeah, he totally set the tone for that second half against Tennessee. They came out that dunk, and then Pat hit the three on the next possession, and they were kind of just rolling from there. And I think he scored, 16 of his 22 points in the second half. So, yeah, definitely impressive showing from him. And you can tell he likes the three ball. Coach Scheyer maybe wasn't as happy with their shot selection in the beginning of the first half versus UCF. But yeah, it's definitely been impressive stuff coming from him. So
yeah, you can't blame them. I mean, everybody showed up. They were excited to finally get to play, and you might take a few shots.
Exactly.
A little bit later on. Yeah. Absolutely.
Out there. So.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about the start of the season. Duke's got a big one coming up against Texas. This non-conference schedule is crazy difficult for this Duke basketball squad. So we'll start to dive into that as we move forward here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Yes, that's right. Today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils is brought to you by our friends over at Mazda. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward, got to be talking about the great play of Duke basketball and Cameron Boozer. 24 points, 23 rebounds, and 6 assists. It's insane. He's a freshman. It should take him much longer to get acclimated to the college game. That's not the case at all. Cam Boozer is moving that game forward. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move or be moved, a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Our show today is also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA and a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Welcome back into the show alongside Anna Snyder. I am JJ Jackson. We're talking Duke basketball, getting set for the regular season. And you're taking on the Texas Longhorns, Anna. A pretty big jump here to open up the year for Duke. And all in all, this non-conference schedule that Coach Scheyer and his staff put together is wild.
It is. But, I think it's exactly what they were looking for, those tests, to have them ready later in the season when, they're playing the ACC tournament, March Madness. They want these tough games. They want to learn about this group. And there's no better way to do that than play the teams that they're playing, for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, you can do so much with the ACC. It's been down the last few years. We certainly hope the conference takes a swing in the upward trajectory to help everybody out, including Duke's case there. But looking at the non-conference schedule, starting the year off with Texas, it's wild. There have been previous years where you get games against mid-majors or lower-level competition. You could kind of gel a little bit more to get into the rhythm before you take on big schools. And here you go. Duke's going up against one of the SEC's NCAA tournament squads from last year in Texas.
Yeah.
Right out of the gates, got to be ready to go. I think, though, you've got to feel a little bit more prepared for this, knowing that you played high-level opponents already in UCF and Tennessee.
100%. And I think that road, I know they're playing a neutral site game against Texas, but I think that road environment at Tennessee was huge for Duke. I mean, sold out at the Food City Center. I just think that was huge for them to get that, to get that under their belt against a top SEC team. And that's only going to help them, as they move forward, play these other top teams.
Yeah, I think obviously the return to injury continues for Malik Brown. It'll be good to see him back in uniform for Duke. Seems as though he's ready to go to start the year.
It does. I asked Coach Scheyer about that the other night. I'm like every time we get to talk to him, Malik Brown, update. But, it's an important question. And it does sound, they're going to do everything in their power to have him ready for Tuesday night. But also they don't want to put him in a position where maybe he's not ready and it might hold him back a little bit longer. So they're, going to see how he's feeling, I guess, and make that decision. But yeah, I guess we're expected to see him, but we'll see.
Yeah, at this point, and the way it went after UCF, I know a lot of people had this. It felt like it was more likely we would see Malik Brown against Tennessee than Dame Sarr.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden it flipped, and that wasn't the case. I think given the injury history for Malik, you want to be a little bit more cautious with that, bringing him back into the fold. So we'll continue to see how this thing develops. But when he's back in uniform, we know what he can do on the defensive end. As a defender, it's going to be so wild to figure out throughout the year how Duke divvies up the minutes because, again, their depth is such a strength, but you can only have 5 of these guys out on the floor at once.
Yeah, no, that definitely will be interesting. It will be good for them to get Malik back. Coach Scheyer's talked. Him and Dame are some of the top defenders on the team. So they were definitely missing them both against UCF. But it will be good to see him back out there and hopefully at full health. Because like you mentioned, he's just been dealing with nagging injuries. And first it was his shoulder, now it's his knee. So hopefully he can be back and be ready to go next week.
Yeah, and now we'll be ready to look at kind of the guards as they continue to move along, the dynamic between Caleb Foster and Cayden Boozer. I know both of those guys want to put Duke in the best position to be successful offensively, and also be able to feature the great post players that Duke has with Cameron Boozer and someone we've yet to spotlight here today, Anna, but Patrick Gongba II, the returning sophomore for Duke.
Yeah, he had quite a second half against Tennessee there. Him and Slim combined for that opening run, and he finished, I think, shooting 5 of 6 from the field. So definitely, and he had 3 blocks. So definitely liked that second half performance from him. And that was something, good and something nice to look forward to for sure.
Yeah, spacing the floor, he can rebound. He's got such great size. He plays above the rim with the lob threat. But then also, he saw in the second half an open opportunity to shoot a three-pointer from the wing. I know the coaching staff has been wanting them to extend their range and shoot a little bit more. This guy attempted only 1 3-point shot all of last season, and then you see him shoot it against Tennessee. It looks really good.
Yeah, no, that was definitely something to see. And I know I spoke earlier about Dame fighting for that ball. We saw Pat against Tennessee literally jump into the bleachers because he was going so hard for a ball. So it's definitely got that aggressive nature there on defense, which is something you like to see.
Without a doubt. I mean, look, it's Texas first for Duke, then a couple of games against lesser competition. When you look at somebody like Western Carolina, Indiana State, aren't all those games that Duke's got. Then Champions Classic against Kansas. They've got the Arkansas game coming up. Florida. I mean, just in total, once again, and this is wild, the tests that Duke will have, but it's the type of teams that they'll see come NCAA tournament time, and I know that that's where this team wants to be ready to go.
100%, 100%. I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. It's definitely the type of teams that they want to see. But yeah, they're not taking it easy on themselves by any means. I mean, they'll go from playing Kansas, Arkansas, and it's a quick turnaround from Arkansas to Florida too. So yeah, definitely not taking it easy on themselves. But like I said, this is what they want. So it's only to prepare them further down the line. It's
going to be really fun to follow along and see how all of this plays out for Duke basketball. Again, getting set for an exciting upcoming season. Right now, though, we've still got the Duke football team in full gear. The Blue Devils getting set for a big game coming up against Clemson this weekend. Off the bye week, we'll see what it looks like for Manny Diaz and company when we return here in a moment. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at DoorDash. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it all down. For Duke football this season, it's been a whole lot of Darian Mensah and Cooper Barkate. That combination has been so dynamic for Duke football. When the pressure was on, they have come through. No hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching week after week, these performances aren't a fluke. They're on a streak. And just like Cooper Barkate and Darian Mensah deliver for Duke football, DoorDash delivers for your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. DoorDash is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. All right, welcome back into the show. Here's Anna Snyder from the Fayetteville Observer joining us on Locked On Blue Devils. Now I want to talk a little football and exiting one of the strangest stretches of Duke football that we've seen in quite some time. I know our friends in Chapel Hill, North Carolina kind of had the same schedule set up where it's a bye week, a game, and then another bye week before you dive back into the season. This is so strange how it's played out.
Definitely strange. I remember at ACC, football media days in Charlotte, that was kind of one of my first assignments on the beat. And Coach Diaz was speaking and he called the schedule bizarre. And that's honestly what it is. It was just so weird. They played 2 games or something in October. Like you said, game by. So now they're through that. So they get to finish their regular season off. But definitely an interesting slate right there for sure.
Yeah, and now they've got Clemson, and Clemson has been down this season historically. Obviously, they've been one of the absolute best when it comes to the ACC and the level of football that's there. And Duke is coming off a just very tough loss against Georgia Tech, where it felt in so many ways Duke had the opportunities to win the game. Self-inflicted wounds were kind of the what drove Duke down into that loss column. And I'm very curious to kind of see how they'll bounce back from that.
Yeah, no, definitely. From the sounds of it, sounds like their week off was good. Coach Diaz said they self-scouted, I guess, which is what they typically do on their second bye. But it will be interesting to see how they bounce back, because in all their losses this year, it seems like it's really been those self-inflicted, errors and mistakes that have really cost them. So it'll be interesting to see how they bounce back in a road environment. I know they're playing at noon, but they're playing at Death Valley, somewhere they haven't won since 1980. So it will be interesting to see. It seems like the mindset of the team, they said the other day that they're in control of their own destiny, and it seems like they're in a good spot, and they know they got to, finish these last 5 games strong. So, yeah.
Yeah, 1980 is a long time ago. I mean, you and I weren't around for those days. And just to think of the entire team, a lot of the roster for both sides, nobody was, 45 years ago since this has happened. And it's an opportunity for Duke to go in and knock off a Clemson team that is super talented. One of the reasons you got to feel confident about Duke's chances is just the way the offense has been playing, led by Darian Mensah.
Absolutely. I mean, you have the FBS leader in pass yards per attempt in Darian Mensah. And he has 6-7 receivers that have 100 yards receiving on the season. He has quite some weapons there. So yeah, any game, with Darian Mensah that does give Duke the natural advantage there, he definitely has done a lot of good things for them in their offense.
Yeah, it's 6 or 7 guys that, like you said, over 100 yards receiving on the season, so many different passing options that we've seen throughout the course of the year. And yet, week by week, it continues to be so clear that this top target, Cooper Barkate of his, the chemistry that they've got, the connection, the timing, all of it, nobody can cover this man. And Darian Mensah is doing an unbelievable job of getting him the football so he can go out there and make plays. What have you thought of Cooper Barkate as of late?
Yeah, Cooper Barkate has been very impressive. He had almost that catch against Georgia Tech. That was almost 50+ yards, but he got called out. But no, he's been really impressive. Right place, right time, makes good catches. So yeah, something I think that's going to be interesting with Clemson is when coaches were talking Monday, they talked about the Clemson defense, how they play a lot of man-to-man. So it'll be interesting because obviously with Cooper being that top target, maybe they'll pay a little bit more attention to him. So maybe somebody else can kind of step up, and we'll see there. But Cooper has definitely been very impressive.
What have you found most interesting or intriguing about Cooper Barkate, given his past, given, jumping up to this level of competition football-wise? What's it been like getting to kind of learn his story?
Yeah, I mean, it's cool how he really hasn't missed a beat, in the jump from the FCS level to FBS. He obviously was a leader at Harvard, an FCS leader, but it's been cool to see the transition really hasn't phased him. And he also seems to be a guy that's really respected in the locker room. So that's something that's been really cool to see. And he's kind of taken up a leadership role, and it hasn't taken him long to do that. So that's been very impressive.
Yeah, I mean, the academic piece for what this guy's been able to do in his life is insane.
It is. I mean, you get a degree from Harvard, a degree from Duke. I don't know if you could be better off than that. So
you're set up. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So Clemson wants to slow down this passing attack, obviously, and nobody really has been able to do that so far this season. So we'll see how that goes. When that happens, you figure that maybe it's an opportunity for the rushing attack for Duke to find some success, relying on Nate Shepard, Anderson Castle, Jaquez Moore, and that bunch. That's going to be interesting to see how all this plays out, Anna, is to see what the ground game looks like.
No, it definitely is. And that the Duke ground game has been something, obviously, they really emphasized coming into the season. And you can really see that. It's really paid off. But no, it will be interesting because, like you said, if they try and cut off the pass, how is the run going to be able to deliver? But, I mean, Nate's risen to the top of that group, and he's done a good job. And then they got Anderson Castle in there as well, who's been hard to stop at times. So it will be interesting to see how they can come out and establish that.
Okay, so now as we look at Clemson and offensively, we'll talk Duke defense now in this big-time game. Quarterback is where you start on every single team in the country, and Cade Klubnik for Clemson is a guy that everyone was talking about going into the year. He was a Heisman favorite. He was thought to be one of the top NFL quarterback prospects going into the season, and for whatever reason, he just hasn't had the best of years. And now there's an injury that we're adding into all of this, and kind of some intrigue whether or not he'll be the one that actually steps up onto the field once we get to Saturday, right?
Yeah, I mean, he missed his first career game since 2015. or no, it was the first game that a Clemson quarterback missed since 2014 or something like that against SMU. And it was his first game missing. So that's definitely very interesting. You know, his backup who stepped in, Christopher, I apologize.
Zena. Yep.
Zena. Okay, I was going to say, I apologize if I butcher his last name. You could tell he had a shaky start, but he settled in there. But from what I read, it sounds like Cade has been practicing this week. I don't think Dabo's really elaborated on how much he's been practicing. But
Probably a smart game move. Yeah.
We'll see when the injury report comes out, you know, if he's listed on there. But, you know, Duke, obviously, they're preparing either way. And so they'll be ready, whoever comes out under center.
Without a doubt, because, I mean, the Duke defense has put together pretty impressive performances throughout the course of the year. The secondary, I thought, in the Cal game and a couple of others have played really well. When you look at guys like Chandler Rivers leading the way, I know they'll be tested against the wideouts of Clemson, but just kind of the defensive standouts that you think we could see from Duke on Saturday. Who would that be?
Well, I got to go with the ACC leader in sacks, Vincent Anthony Jr. He's one of their top edge rushers. Wesley Williams also. They're really good at, you know, just putting pressure on the quarterback there. The linebacker group is really impressed, too, with Duke. You know, there's some younger guys that have had to step up there, and they've done well. And you mentioned it, Chandler Rivers. He's done a really good job, and it seems like a lot of the times they're wanting to throw the ball to the other side of the field, you know, that he's not on. But I would say probably the one that comes to mind first is Vincent Anthony Jr. for sure.
It should be a great game. I'm excited to see both these teams get out there, and hopefully Duke can find themselves back in the win column. First time since 1980 trying to pick up a win here against Clemson in Death Valley. We'll see if Duke is able to do that. Anna, appreciate you coming on the show today. Before you go, though, tell us about the Fayetteville Observer, how people can follow along and support your work. How can we do that?
Yes, you can read my stuff online at fayobserver.com, and then you can find me on Twitter or X at Anna Snyder.
Awesome. Thanks for the time today. We'll do it again soon, okay?
Yes, thank you so much. Have a good one.
All right, that's Anna Snyder joining us here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils, and that's going to bring our show today to a close. Appreciate everybody for watching and following along. Be sure to follow and subscribe to us for free wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Check out Duke basketball next week, opening up the year on Tuesday. But first, a big Duke football game against Clemson coming up on Saturday. That'll do it. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you again soon. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.